In this topic, we will review the three ways of running or executing a Docker container. The fundamental principle behind Dockerization is the ability to run the Docker containers in a less resource-intensive manner. And the designers of Docker have provided us three different ways in which a Docker container can be spawned. The first way of spawning a container is as a single thread of execution, which means once the thread is completed whatever it's supposed to do, the container also dies. The second way is to run the container in an interactive mode, which gives the user opportunities to interact with the shell, with the Docker container continuously unless we physically stop the container by exiting out of the interactive shell. And the third approach is to run the Docker container as a daemon, especially if it's performing a heavyweight task and we do not want it to run it in the foreground, then it's preferable to run it as a daemon thread in the background. So let us now demonstrate each of these three methods. The first way is to run a Docker thread, a Docker container as a single thread of execution. And to that effect, I am going to run an Ubuntu echo command on the Ubuntu image. So ubuntu/bin/echo and the all familiar hello world. So this is the simplest of possible executions. You can see it prints out hello world and the container instance will die. There's no way we can keep interacting with this Docker process because it was run as a single thread. Now we shall run the Docker container as an interactive thread. So I'm going to run it as Docker run with a -i flag, and the template is T, and again the base image is Ubuntu, and I'm going to try and open up a bash shell. You see, it opens up a bash shell, which then allows me to interact with the container. Right? I can keep executing commands against the shell until I physically exit out of the container window, in which case the container is no more available to me. So I'm going to do a Docker PS. You see that there is no container available. And now let's run a Docker container as a Docker daemon. So Docker run, so the flag is D, and then the base image will be Ubuntu. Again, I'm going to open up a bin shell and I'm going to execute a command. So it's going to be a loop while true do echo hello world sleep 1 millisecond done. Right, so this is going to run a Docker daemon which will keep logging a string hello world infinite number of times. You see that it immediately gives a reference to the container. Now, how do I know that this Docker is running in the background? This Docker instance is running in the background. So Docker PS, you can see that it tells you a shell of Docker container was spawned about 11 seconds ago. So these are the three ways of running or executing Docker container. So in this topic, we've reviewed how we can execute a Docker container as a single thread, how we could run it in an interactive mode, and how we could spawn a Docker thread as a background process.